Welcome to the Big Success Podcast, cutting-edge conversations on business and personal success, as well as how to level up. Here's your host, #1 business coach in the world, Brad Sugars.
And so we joined by the amazing Michael Losier from the beautiful British Columbia. Michael, thank you for your time today. I have to start with the same question as always. What is success to Michael Losier?
Good question. Success to me means fulfillment. Now, if I'm feeling fulfilled doing my work or volunteering somewhere or with my friends, if I'm feeling fulfilled and getting my needs met, then that's success. And that shows up in my relationship, shows up in my work, shows up in my client. And when I'm not fulfilled, I'm bored. So there you go. When I'm fulfilled, that's success to me.
So when you think about the word fulfillment, how do you describe fulfillment then? Because that if definition gives a second definition then.
That's right. It's easier to describe unfulfilled. Right? When you say, people know what it means to be unfulfilled. We have a job and we're not getting our needs met. In my book, Fulfillment Needs, I came up with 30 things that need to be present. Everything from creativity to attention to acknowledgement to control and order and function and autonomy. It's not for everybody. But when you understand which one of those, say, for example, which one of those 4, when they're present, you're fulfilled. Yeah. It's like, and the job is identify what fulfills you and do more of it, right? If you love doing this and you're fulfilled, if you don't like doing that, then don't do it. It's really about fulfilling, making sure that you're fulfilled. Fulfill means to be full of something. And to me, that would be to be full of joy or full of happiness, to fulfill something.
So needs being met is an interesting set of words. How does someone know when their needs are met?
You can tell by how you feel. So I'm going to give you an example. So again, I would start off with 40 needs, 30 needs on the chart. And I arrived at my top 4 needs. And I use those top 4 needs to help me make decisions, as in today. So it becomes a yardstick. And I would say, well, I'll be fulfilled in doing that. So out of the 30, here's the top 4 things that when they're present, I'm fulfilled. And when they're not, I'm super bored. So here's number 1, attention. I love attention in a positive way. And I could almost call it attentiveness, we're on stage. I love stages. I love book signings. I love events. I love presentations. I love anything to do with video. Now, one way to know if that's really important is, did I get that met in a destructive way when I was younger? Yeah, it was show off, show off at school, dancing on the tables and stuff. I got my attention needs met, but in a destructive way. Yeah. So as a business adult, am I getting? So my number 1 need is attentiveness. Number 2 is influencing people in a positive way. So I get to do that with speaking and all the things that I talked about. Yeah. So far, Brad Sugar says, hey, do you want to get on one of my podcasts? And I don't know. Will I get attention? Yes. Will I be able to influence people? Yes. And the third one is intimacy. And intimacy is 3 words, meaning into, me, see. In other words, the topics are intimate, our goals, our dreams, our challenges. And I say this as a joke, but I don't know how to talk about sports, cars, and weather. It doesn't interest me, so I fade out and I become uninterested and become bored. But if you want to tell me, not you, somebody, if you want to tell me your life sucks and maybe I can help you with that, or tell me your goals and dreams, I'm in. So intimate conversation. So far, all of those things are present. My attention needs met, influencing people in a positive way, intimate conversation. And the 4th one is freedom. So it was freedom. I got to say yes or no. We checked the time. We made it all work. And boom. So that becomes my yardstick to make decision. And as a quick example, I was asked to go to China. I live in Vancouver, or near Vancouver. China is a 16-hour flight just to get there. A 16-hour flight to get home. The whole recuperating. So someone said, hey, would you come to do an event? We've got 12 leaders. And we want you to come do a 25-minute presentation. Wait for it. I'm not even done with a translator. So, when you have a translator.
Not met.
Guess who's not looking at Michael Losier when there's a translator, and they don't even laugh at me. They wait for the I thought, are you kidding? They couldn't throw enough money at that. It was like 4 days. So freedom, you can forget about freedom. So, again, identify what makes you feel good and do more of it.
So when in your life did you choose to have success? When did success become a thing for you?
That's a great question. When did success become a thing for me? Well, I was still working for the government at the time. And I remember, without even knowing it, people would come into my office and close the door. And, 25 years ago, if you were a positive thinker, you were a little weird.
And you worked in the government.
And I worked in the government. So let's put all those. I have a government job and I have this private world where I'm a positive thinker. And again, 25 years ago, that was a really odd subject.
Yeah.
So people would come in and close the door and they would go on and on and on and on complaining about stuff. And I remember the very first time I had a little sign in my office and it said, "Behind every complaint is a request." Well, didn't that puzzle everybody? Right? They're twisting their head reading it. And people used to say this. They say this to people that are more positive than themselves when they say, "You're the most uplifting person in my life." Which means I make them raise their vibe. Wouldn't have used that word 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I make them raise their feelings or their vibes around me when they're with me because I make them change the conversation. So when I got a sense that I could influence somebody just with my words, I was in.
Yeah.
I was in. And then I would notice a pattern. I'd think, wow, this, and that's how I developed a lot of the material in my book, was practicing it here and practicing it there. Or people saying, "I love when you said this," or "I love when you said that."
Very nice. So how does success happen? What's your formula? How does it work?
Right. How does success work for me? Well, first I have to identify when I say the way I want it to be, it doesn't have to be with that company, but I want it to have these elements to it, right? I want to have my freedom. I want to be able to create. I want to be able to develop, whatever that might be for everybody. So that's the first part. And then when you're clear about what you want, then you have boundaries and you can say no, right? A lot of people say yes just because they were asked. It's like, it's okay to wait for the match. You can't match every offer. So it's okay if that client wasn't a match. Just let them go and remind yourself, I only do matches, and just stay in that vibration. So success to me is identifying what I want and having a boundary, because I use the word vibration a lot. I call it a vibrational boundary.
Yeah.
I have a boundary about what I'll let influence my vibration. Is it a negative conversation, or am I observing something on TV or TikTok or something? I can tell by how I feel if it's influencing me. It's like, if I'm feeling negative, that meant I lowered my vibration. So number one, identify what I want and the way I want it to be, and stay in that vibration and keep giving it attention. Doesn't mean I have to daydream on it or I have to visualize. That's not easy for some people.
Yeah.
Be in the energy of it. Can you volunteer and be in the energy of it? Can you research? Can you be in the energy of it? And when it comes to law of attraction doesn't know how or why you're giving it attention. It's just going to start to unfold and orchestrate the things you're giving attention to. So if you want to have a goal, what is the goal? What is the way you want it to be? And then do what you need to do. You could daydream. Guess what? You're giving it attention. Yeah. You could pretend. You could go sit in somebody else's lecture room or audience. Be in the energy of it. And law of attraction doesn't know where the vibe's coming from. It's just matching it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go back to that saying no thing, because I think that's possibly a thing that gets in the way of a lot of people's success. Did you have to learn that, or is that something that naturally came to you? How did that work for you?
Well, I studied NLP, which stands for neuro-linguistic programming, and the L part, the letter L is the languaging part. And that's where I learned that, you hear people say, your brain doesn't know whether it's fake or not. So my job is to make things easy for people. That's, I'm a trainer and I have to make things easy for people. So I got to break it down. What is the most common denominator? How can I make people relate to that? So in my teachings, I talk about using the words don't, not, and no. And to help people understand it, I say, go to Google and type in no football. Do you think you're going to get hockey? You're in for a surprise. Go type in no pink elephant. You're going to get pink elephants. You see, Google strips away the words don't, not, and no, and brings you what you said you didn't want. So if we can think of the law of attraction as vibrational Google, you see, Google isn't smart. It's obedient. And it's bringing you to match the input that you gave it, which was, I don't want this. You don't go to Google and tell it what you don't want. Who does that? But when it comes to our world and our business, oh, I don't want clients to cancel all the time. I don't want clients that don't have any money. I know that's what you don't want, but when you talk about it, you give it attention. And everybody needs to understand law of attraction isn't smart, it's obedient. So somebody might say, well, how can I tell what the vibe I'm sending? Well, that's easy. If you want to know the vibe you're sending about attracting ideal clients, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
It's a perfect match.
Yeah. So let's use that then. How does failure teach success?
Well, so here's the thing about failure. I hear people say, oh, that's to teach you a lesson. The universe doesn't teach lessons. It just matches vibrations. You didn't attract something negative to teach you a lesson. So the failure is just feedback. If I go to Google, say, for example, you're thinking, hey, I heard this guy in Brad Sugar, his name was Michael, and he mentioned law of attraction. I'm going to go search him on Google. They type in Michael Law, not enough, right? So Google says, are you looking for all the Michaels that are lawyers? And no, sorry, Google. So we don't get ticked off at Google. What do? We don't call it a failure. Sorry, Google, I didn't give you. So it's Michael, law of attraction, and then you type in, now you get every Michael with law of attraction. Now Google's saying, is this what you want? It's just feedback. And then we say, oh, he said he was interviewed by Oprah 4 times. I didn't say, but I just installed it. So now you're typing in Michael, law of attraction, Oprah, it'll be the first hit.
Yeah.
And then we get excited because Google just mastered, but the failure, it's a horrible word to use, but people use it. The failure replaced the F word to feedback. Whatever you're getting from Google is matching the exact words that you put it. We get excited when Google's close. Oh, I almost got it. But when it's the universe, we get ticked off that we haven't got it yet. So celebrate how close the match is that you want. I almost got the ideal job, date, client, interview. Celebrate how close it is, but hold out for the perfect match.
You're on the Big Success Podcast with Brad Sugars. I'm here with Michael Losier. We'll be back in just a moment with all the areas around connection, purpose, and the law of attraction, how you succeed at those.
There has never been a better time to become successful in life than right now. Creating success in your life isn't about chance. It's about learning what it takes to create a great life. And that's why Brad Sugars put together 30X Life. You get his 30 years of success in 30 minutes a day for 30 days. You only get one shot at this thing called life. Let's build an amazing life for you.
And this is the Big Success Podcast. Michael Losier, British Columbia. Now, Mike, you mentioned it just before the break. Oprah brought you on board because when she started teaching the law of attraction, there was a massive kerfuffle and you had to come in and help educate the world. Education is a big part of you, but it's also part of your purpose, I guess, and you're a genius at purpose. How do we succeed at knowing our purpose, living on purpose, becoming purposeful?
Okay, good question. The best way is to notice the pattern of when you feel good about something. Thinking, oh yeah, I remember I had a job once, and one of my most exciting jobs, well, my worst job ever was mowing lawns at a graveyard. Count how many of my needs got met then. 0.
Yeah.
0. But I didn't know back then. I just know I hated it and I was bored, right? So if you're bored, it just means you're not being fulfilled. But then I worked at a restaurant. I worked at a breakfast restaurant. I loved it. So what did I like about it? And then you start thinking, what did I like? Did I like connecting with people? Did I like being in charge of something? Did I like my leadership? Of course, I wouldn't have used those when I was younger. But as an adult, go back to the jobs that you had and say, well, what did I like? Oh, I hate it when I was had to sit at my desk. Well, what did you like? Well, I like when I was able to build community and get people in. Okay, well, then write that down. And then you start to see patterns about the things that were important. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say there's a list of 30 fulfillment needs that people can download for free. And they're just a guide. I'll read some of them, right? Accomplishment, important to some people, not other people.
Yeah.
Achievement, acknowledgement. Some people need to be acknowledged. Some people don't, right? So you find an environment where you get acknowledged if you like to be acknowledged. Adventure, appreciation, approval. Some people hate it. Some people need it. So find out. So for me, mine again were attention and influencing people in a positive way, intimate conversation. So when I understand that, I duplicate it and I do more of it because I'm selfish. And selfish means self-care. I care about myself enough to make sure that I'm fulfilled more than I'm not.
So let's take that one step further then, because one of the interesting things for most people may not know about you is that you're a YouTube. You've been around. Well, let's go back. You even started teleclasses Dang, what year did you start doing teleclasses? 2008, maybe? 2000?
Oh, no, it was way before then. It was, yeah, because my book came out in 2003. And before that, I'm going to say 1998, 1999. For those that teleclass was the days where we get on a large conference call with a bunch of people. And I would run home from my government job to get here in my house for Thursday at 5:00. And I was doing teleclasses every Thursday night in Law of Attraction.
Yeah.
And I was taking notes and people were emailing me. And in the meantime, and web pages just came out. And so I had a web page. The first thing that I did with my book while I was writing it is that I did the cover. So I put the cover on the website. I'm doing all these teleclasses and I'm directing people. And people saying, "Oh, let me know when the books are ready." And that's how my book sold so many copies, was because of teleclasses. So, yeah. And learning how to teach over the phone, right? Learning how to teach virtually using accelerated learning techniques is what I was good at too.
And it brings me to the subject then of connection, because you're a master of connection. When we first met in Ireland way back when, and we came to Vancouver and you came and taught for my people there, I watch you connect with people. What are the keys to success in connection?
Okay, good question. Well, first I want to talk about rapport. It's a French word meaning to stay in relationship with. So when it comes to rapport, networking at a business meeting, elevator, one of your conferences, we can build rapport real fast, sometimes in 2 minutes, sometimes over a cup of coffee. So we can build rapport fast. And how long does it take to break rapport? 1 nanosecond. And how long does it take to repair it? Sometimes never. So if you're prospecting and meeting customers or clients and you piss them off, if you break rapport with them, we all know it's a struggle to get out of that. So why does rapport get broken? In most cases is because people are communicating that's not matching the other person's style. And to complicate it, there's 4 main styles. Some people need to see it, the visuals. Some people need to hear it, the auditories. Some people need to feel it or do it. And then there's some people that need to think about it. So if I'm talking to somebody that needs to think about it and I'm snapping my fingers trying to get them to answer me, they're still processing it. What happens? Rapport gets broke. Or maybe I'm the person that needs to see something and you're asking me, how does it make me feel? Now I'm really ticked off, right? Because I don't have feelings. I like to use my eyes. Or someone says, "Can you look at this?" And I'll say, "Just tell me about it." Why do they do that? Because they're auditory. If your friend or client says, "Just tell me about it," don't try to show it to them. So that's where rapport breaks down. So real short, there's 4 styles. One of them is our favorite dominant. And if I was a trainer and I only use visual words, I would say, "Does this look okay? Everybody getting the picture? Is this clear?" I remember one time way back in the teleclass days, I said, is everyone getting the picture? Very visual. You know what one woman said? "Did you email one?" That's what she said. So, boy, that was not her style. When I said, "Are you getting the picture?" She said, "I'm pressing email. Did you send it?" I thought, that's too literal. So as a trainer, I have to make sure if I'm doing a point, and I'll do it deliberately, I want to tap into all 4 styles, and starting with the visual. Okay, is this clear for everybody? Everybody getting the picture? Does this sound okay? Everybody getting excited? What are your thoughts so far? So now I've engaged all the styles. And if I just asked everybody what they felt like, the other 3 styles are tuning out. If it wasn't, it's like, I've got to talk about our feelings. So to stay in good rapport, our job is to listen, and people will give their style away. If you're getting an email and they said, "I was checking out your website and it caught my eye. I like what I'm saying." Don't say, "How does it make you feel?" Right? So if you're getting an email, people will use a dominant word, visual, auditory, touchy-feelies, or the thinkers. They'll tell you who they are. "I've been thinking about working with you, and it makes sense to do that now." Don't ask them how they feel. It's like, okay, this makes sense. Like, match their words. And that's how we stay in rapport with other people.
Very nice. I love it. So then originally, obviously, Law of Attraction was the first book. Before I get to that subject, I want to talk to you and ask you about how do you succeed at publishing? Because you've been a powerhouse of publishing. How do you succeed at that? What are the keys to making sure that you succeed?
Well, you've never seen me without a sign behind me. That's how you sell 4 million books in 37 languages. There's a lot of other books that I could have written, but I just wanted to focus on law of attraction. And I was going to make a career out of it. And I did. I was interviewed by Oprah 4 times. I had my own radio show on the Oprah Network for a year. I had a beautiful career and still having it. Matter of fact, after 20 years, my publisher is re-releasing it with 4 new chapters in it. For 20 years, I said, there's nothing new, there's nothing new. Then my agent said, if you can get us new stuff, we can resell it to 37 countries. You know what I said? When do we get started? So I've been teaching, even stuff I presented at your seminar that's not in my book. Why? Well, the book's 20 years old, so I've come up with models and examples. So these were things I kind of already had written. So I created 4 chapters and making sure I satisfy all the styles as a writer. How do you do that? You got to show a graphic. Who needs it? The visuals. And then there's got to be a list of words, or there's got to be a quote or something. The auditory people like that. Then in my books, you got to have a blank form and a completed one so the doers can do it. And then, of course, there's always the checkoff list at the end for the thinkers.
Yeah.
So I submitted those 4 chapters. They're republishing my book after 20 years. They keep publishing it. Matter of fact, it's rare for them to take an old title and to put this much energy into it. So I think it's going to be re-released in January.
So what makes it a success, though, other than always having it behind you, Michael? What makes publishing something you're great at?
Well, I want to say because I'm a good trainer, and I can make complicated subjects easy. As a matter of fact, I help other people that don't know how to get their message across, and I help them make that easy. Same with, your life purpose. It's not complicated. The purpose of your life is to feel good. So let's back up and find out what that means, right?
Yeah.
So I made law of attraction easy. I made understanding the 4 styles easier. My second book, the publisher, I was self-published. I sold 250,000 copies on my own. Then Oprah talked about law of attraction. Then it all spilled over. The publisher bought my book. And they said, the feedback on your book is really interesting. I've got massive 5- and 4-star reviews on Amazon. But they said, we're curious because people like your style. They like your style, And by the way, anybody that likes the dummy series, I like their style because you know what dummy series are good at? At talking to all 4 styles.
Yeah.
So my publisher said, well, is that deliberate? I said, yes, I'm writing to all 4 styles. They said, can you write about that? So my second book was birthed because they liked my writing style, right? And also in that book, there's a list of accelerated learning techniques that trainers would want to use. So they, of course, engage all of the audience.
Yeah. So back to law of attraction then. What's the top 2 or 3 things that make people a success at attracting the great things into their life?
Keeping score about what's matching. For example, all of us have goals, and goal setting is really good. However, we end up keeping score that we're not there yet. You know what? I wanted 10 clients this month. I only got 8. Really? You're not excited? No, I'm not excited. See, with some goal setting, we get excited when we reach the goal. But with law of attraction, I want people to get excited with the first sale. Say, wow, you know what? I just launched my new product, my new offer. I got a sale today. They're pretty great. Listen, these people came from out of the blue. They paid for full on time, and they did this and this, and we could, and boom. And use the word celebrating, which is a very kinesthetic word. You can use the word acknowledge. If you acknowledge everything that you liked about that first sale, law of attraction is responding that you're giving attention to the ideal sale. So instead of keeping score that you're not there yet, celebrate what you have. And in the acknowledgement and in the celebration, now you're getting more of that. That's how you duplicate an ideal client. You make sure that you're giving that ideal client attention. It's like a hack. Law of attraction doesn't know where the vibration's coming from. It's just matching it. It doesn't know that you're pretending or you're in your mastermind team or you're updating with your success, or it doesn't know if you're complaining or worrying. It's always responding. So deliberate attraction is when I do something deliberate. So every business person today could take a pad of paper and call it this, the top of the list. Here's what I like about blank. And that's their ideal. Here's what I like about Bob. Here's what I like about Betty. Here's what I like about Cynthia. And if you build the list, well, she pays on time and they network me and they thank me on public. They connect me on LinkedIn. They sent this, they do this, they show. As you're building the list about your favorite ideal client, law of attraction doesn't know who they are.
Yeah.
It's responding to how you feel about what you're giving attention to. That's how you get more ideal clients, is you stay in the energy of that ideal client.
What is the 2 or 3 biggest things that people say, Michael, I want to attract more X into my life? I'd love to know, what do you get asked about most, people wanting to attract more of?
Well, probably money is most.
Oh,
money
really?
Money and relationships, they're pretty common ones.
Huh.
And for money, you have to go back to the source. If we take a look at a faucet, their faucet where there's a water coming out of the faucet, there's a lot more water available. But how much you're receiving isn't determined by how much it's available. It's determined by how tight the resistance that we have. So again, if you can imagine a faucet, the water droplet isn't representative about how much is available. It's how much resistance we have in receiving that. And that means the doubt and my negative vibe about it. Am I complaining? And am I worrying?
I love your answers. I can sit here and talk to you for days. Anyway, we will be back on the Big Success Podcast. I'm going to talk to Michael about leveling up when we get back.
Michael Losier has been delivering online training seminars and workshops since 2008 when he partnered to create TeleClass International, a training company teaching coaches and trainers how to deliver online courses using accelerated learning techniques. To learn more about Michael Losier, please visit his website today.
You're back with the Big Success Podcast. Michael Losier, a legend of the world of law of attraction, really made it understandable and easy for me. That's why I love having him here. Michael, let's talk about scaling up or sizing up or going from good to great. You meet a lot of people who are doing good and want to do great. What are some of the keys to making that leap?
Okay, as soon as you asked me the question, I remember an author. Her name was Barbara Sher, and she wrote the book called Teamworks, which later became like the mastermind style. But she wrote the very first book. Matter of fact, when I went to New York, I went to her house and I had some tea in her pink room. And when I say pink room, I mean everything was pink. And she was delighted to meet me because 25 years ago, there wasn't a lot of, self-help books kind of thing. They were even hard to find. So she said this in her book, and I remembered it forever. People have more courage for others than they do for themselves. So in my entire career, including with the word law of attraction, I enrolled other people that had projects they wanted to work on. And I didn't know it was called a mastermind team. It was just me and another friend. And we'd meet once a week on old school phone, not even on a BlackBerry, pre-BlackBerry, right? The corded phone. And we would be talking about each other's goals and dreams and what progress we made. So most of the successful things I've done with other people and helping them on their goal and them helping me on my goal. So, and then we have a fair exchange and everybody's moving forward. So I would say, find someone else that wants to level up and level up together. And that's where accountability comes in. And coaches do that. They keep people accountable. Yeah. And maybe in between, you can have a weekly meeting with somebody to talk about the success, like be deliberate about doing that.
Yeah. So let's talk about the leapfrog in your life. Oprah Winfrey was a definite leapfrog for you and took you from a good level to a great level. But it didn't just happen magically. It was 20 years of work that led to that overnight success. But when it came, you took advantage of it. I want to ask you about that because some people, when the big deal or the big opportunity comes, back away from it. What had to happen for you to take advantage of that, I guess, and to step into it?
Such good questions. Make me think on the spot. I want to tell you about my first big leapfrog was teleclasses. I'm living on Gilligan's Island, and all of a sudden, I'm picking up the phone, and I have 100 people listening to a subject. And these 100 people were so hungry because nobody was talking about the subject. So thank you to Thomas Leonard, who invented the whole process and how to coach and how to train over I think he started TeleClass University doing stuff online. So that was my first catalyst doing that. And then I really published my book so I could be a speaker. What do I know about? I don't even read that many books, never mind how to write a book. But what am I good at? I was a good trainer. So I was doing seminars in Victoria, And I wanted to do more. I wanted to go on the speaking tour. And I met this other trainer, and he said, if you had a book, you could speak anywhere. Well, you don't have to say that twice to me. Why? Because I was so fulfilled by that idea. It's like, I don't want to be an author and a writer. I wrote 3 books, but I don't even call myself a writer. I call myself a trainer who wrote 3 good guides, right?
Yeah.
So that's how that book happened. So I sold a lot of books on my own. I was traveling. I was doing seminars. I came to Ireland with you, like South Carolina, Vancouver. I did gigs like that were perfect for me. But I also was very conscious. I didn't want to turn up the volume and have a staff of 10 people and 20 people and models like you and other successful. It was like that felt I was taking away my freedom, because I like living on Gilligan's Island, right? So I made a conscious choice. Could I have moved to Vancouver and been busy? Oh yes, I could have been heavily immersed in the corporate world there, but the thought of going into a corporate office didn't appease me at all. So without knowing it, I was using my vibrational meter reader, which is my feelings, to help me make decisions. So yes, I have a small company. My sister worked with me for 15 years. She was my assistant, and now I hired outsourced to different things. But I like the size of it. And could I double click on it if I wanted to? I could, but I'm kind of measuring, monitoring where I'm at now. So
back to that stepping into it thing. What happened when you had to step into that then? Because obviously your meter, your vibe was like, yeah, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't though, Michael. What was the key for you to stepping into it?
Well, honestly, I was ready. Right, even before I remember in Victoria, I've done a lot of seminars here. You can ask anybody. Oh my God, he talked about that forever. I would do this. Who here thinks Oprah's going to love me? Right, and so every time I did a seminar, I was including I never said I wanted to be on Oprah's radio show. I just said, is Oprah going to love this? Yes. So we would have those jokes all the time. I never solicited the Oprah office. We never sent anything. We never sent them books. Matter of fact, their producers contacted us 3 times, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, to have a book. Sorry, I keep going off the topic, but so I had a radio show on Voice America before then.
Yeah.
And one of the ways you sell 4 million books is that you become a professional radio guest. So I bought a little book, and it showed me all the radio hosts. It was for people like us. You'd get in this catalog. And I was having 2 or 3 interviews a day living on Gilligan's Island. I mean, you've got to love that.
Yeah.
Selling books every time I hang up the telephone.
I love it. A professional radio guest is almost like a professional podcast guest these days.
Yes. Yeah. One time it was a traditional radio, and then it went to internet radio like Voice America, and then it went to XM kind of radio, and now we're doing podcast and video blogs and so on. So yeah, that's definitely was pretty important for me. So when it came time for me I had to submit, when I got a call from Oprah's office, I had to prepare a demo tape, and they supplied the resources and that. So I filmed a couple of Voice America show. So, because I already had that under my belt, and they took it and they presented it to Oprah. She listened to like 4 minutes on it. She said, get him in here. So, I always like to talk about, it was called Oprah and Friends was the name of the radio show.
Yeah.
And I always joke about, look at all the people in the picture. There was everybody from Maya Angelou to Gayle King, and then Michael Losier from Gilligan's Island on the end. So I felt different, but shout out to Oprah for putting this subject on her radio show.
Yeah.
Not on the TV, but on the radio show.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I wouldn't have wanted to been on the TV because there'd be too many resistors. But when you're listening to the Oprah radio show and you go to the Law of Attraction channel at 11 o'clock in the morning, you're doing that on purpose. So it's funneling in. But on TV, it would have been exposed to, what people are. They can be mean. So I'm sensitive. I wouldn't have wanted to hear that.
So let's talk about some quick fire success questions. How do you succeed at self-development?
Well, I surround myself with other people that are in the same as that, whether they're business or my friends. We're always kind of doing it and, helping each other. And, again, my conversations have to be intimate or I get bored. So, my friends know about, we're going to talk about goals and dreams and relationships and help me, help you. That's just my style.
Then let's go to that one. Quick fire one. How do you succeed at goal setting?
At goal setting, well, I'm careful not to put a number on my goals. And I would say, I want to attract an abundance of clients. I know what that number means to me, but I don't want to say what the number. So goal setting for me is, and then most importantly, once I set the goal, that set the energy in motion, and not to keep track that I'm not there. What I said earlier, celebrate the first client or first sale, then the second one. And now I've got 2, and now I'm in the energy of it. So that's successful goal setting.
I loved when you taught me the feeling of being on a roll and making sure I consistently get in that feeling of being on a roll.
Yeah, a vibrational roll.
Yeah. So let's go to the final question of the day, Michael. What in your mind is the best advice you ever got on success, or the best quote you ever got on success?
I'm thinking of something, but I'm not sure it relates, but I'll make it tie in. I remember someone telling me probably 25 years ago, and it really stunned me when they said, people will treat you the way you allow them to. And that really struck me. So I don't know why that came up when you asked that question, but I don't really take no for an answer. Like, I get stuff done.
Yeah.
I just get stuff done, and I can create real fast, right? And I know how to do that, and I get stuff done. And I'm also good at enrolling other people to come with me. So
fantastic. Michael Losier, thank you so much for your time. This is the Big Success Podcast. Connect with Michael, read all of his books, listen to his YouTubes and his podcasts, dive in deep and get into the law of attraction, your life purpose, and the connectivity. That's what we're here for, big success. And that's the Big Success Podcast for today. Hopefully you took a lot of notes, hopefully you learned a bunch, and hopefully you're going to take action on it. BS, Brad Sugar's Big Success, take action. Check all the show notes for all of the links. So make sure that you have links to every single thing that every speaker has in our show notes. Check them now, click the links, take advantage of it, and I'll speak to you again next time on the Big Success Podcast.
You've been listening to the Big Success Podcast with the #1 business coach in the world, Brad Sugars. To learn more about how to achieve business and personal success, as well as how to level up or listen to past episodes, visit www.bradsugars.com.